The desperate Plath wind howled across the Montana wasteland like a hungry ghost, carrying with it the scent of rust and forgotten dreams. Marcus Chun wiped the grease from his hands with a rag that had seen better decades, squinting through a dust-caked window of his workshop. The sun was setting behind the skeletal remains of what used to be Billings, painting the sky in shades of amber and regret. 23 years had passed since the Great Collapse, when the economy crashed so hard it took civilization down with it. Most folks had fled to the coastal cities where the government still functioned, but Marcus had stayed. Someone had to keep the machines running for the stubborn few who refused to abandon their land. Besides, where else would a half-Chinese mechanic with more scars than social skills fit in? He was reaching for his evening coffee when the crash came. Metal against metal, followed by the unmistakable sound of something large hitting the ground hard. Marcus grabbed his rifle from behind the workbench, muscle memory from years of dealing with raiders and worse. The wasteland had taught him that curiosity without caution was just another word for dead. The wreckage lay 50 yards from his workshop, a twisted mass of metal that definitely wasn't from any Earth manufacturer. Steam hissed from ruptured pipes, and strange blue lights flickered weakly along what might have been a control panel. Marcus approached slowly, finger on the trigger, when he heard it. A sound he'd never heard before, yet somehow understood completely. Pain, desperation, and something that might have been pride dying a slow death. The alien was trapped beneath a collapsed section of his craft, legs pinned by debris that would have crushed a human instantly. He was massive, easily 7 feet. Tall, with skin that seemed to shift between dark gray and deep purple in the fading light. 4 arms ended in hands that could probably crush a man's skull, and his face was a collection of sharp angles that somehow conveyed intelligence and nobility despite their alien nature. But it was his eyes that stopped Marcus cold. They were golden, like molten metal, and filled with a weariness that Marcus recognized in his own mirror. This wasn't just physical pain. This was the look of someone who had lost everything and was trying to hold on to the last shreds of dignity. "Help," the alien said, and Marcus nearly dropped his rifle. The voice was deep, resonant, but the word came out broken, like it had been forced through a throat that wasn't designed for human speech. Please. Marcus had seen a lot of things in his 42. Years. He'd pulled bodies from burning cars, watched good people die from diseases that should have been curable, and buried more friends than he cared to count. But he'd never seen anything beg before. Not like this. Not with such careful desperation. As if the act of asking for help was physically painful. "Easy there, big guy," Marcus said, setting his rifle aside but keeping it within reach. "Let me see what we're dealing with." The debris was heavy, but not impossibly so. Marcus had built his workshop to handle industrial equipment, and his lift system was designed for engines twice the size of a car. It took him 20 minutes to rig up a pulley system that could safely extract the alien without causing further injury. During those 20 minutes, neither of them spoke. Marcus worked with the methodical precision of someone who had learned that panic was just another way to die, while the alien watched with those golden eyes, never once crying out despite what had to be excruciating pain. When the last piece of debris was finally lifted away, the alien didn't immediately try to move. Instead, he studied Marcus with the intensity of someone trying to solve a complex equation. "You freed me," he said finally, his English improving with each word. "Why?" Marcus shrugged, already reaching for his first aid kit. "Because you needed help. That's what people do." "Not my people," the alien said quietly. "My people take. We conquer. We do not ask for aid from those we consider inferior." "Well, lucky for you, I'm not your people," Marcus replied, examining the alien's injuries. 2 of his 4 arms were definitely broken, and there were cuts and bruises everywhere. but nothing that couldn't be fixed with time and proper care. Name's Marcus, and you are? Veltar, the alien replied, and somehow Marcus knew this wasn't just a name but a title, a rank, something that had meant everything to the being before him. I am ... was a strategic battle commander of the Kethron Imperial Fleet. Was? Marcus asked, beginning to clean the worst of the cuts with antiseptic that made Veltar hiss, but not pull away. No longer, Veltar said, and there was a wait to those words that spoke of sacrifice and consequences. I have chosen a different path, one that has made me an exile from my own kind. Marcus nodded, understanding more than Veltar probably realized. He'd been an exile himself once, cast out from his family for refusing to follow the path they'd chosen for him. The military, they'd said, honor the family name. But Marcus had seen enough of honor to know it was often just another word for organized violence. Well, Veltar, Marcus said, beginning to splint the broken arms with materials from his workshop. Exile or not, you're hurt and you need help. I've got food, medical supplies, and a warm place to sleep. Question is, what do you have to offer in return? The alien's golden eyes flashed with something that might have been surprise. You would bargain with me? Even now, when I am at your mercy? I'd bargain with anyone who shows up at my door, Marcus said simply. That's how civilization works. Everyone contributes, everyone benefits. The strong help the weak, and the weak help the strong in other ways. Veltar was quiet for a long moment, considering. When he spoke again, his voice carried a strange formality, as if he were making a vow. I will carry your burdens, human, all of them. Physical, emotional, spiritual. I will be your strength when you have none, your shield when danger comes, your companion when the loneliness becomes too much to bear. In return, I ask only for food and shelter until I can find my own path. Marcus paused in his work, looking up at the alien's face. There was something in those golden eyes now, something that spoke of sacred oaths and bonds that transcended species. That's a hell of an offer, he said finally. But what makes you think I have burdens that need carrying? Because, Veltar said softly, you live alone in a wasteland, surrounded by broken machines and empty bottles. Because you have rifle calluses on your hands and food for only one person in your cupboards. Because you helped a stranger who could have killed you, and you did it without hesitation. Only those who have known true loneliness recognize it in others. Marcus stared at the alien for a long, then laughed. It was a sound rusty from disuse, like a machine that hadn't been oiled in years. You're pretty observant for someone who was unconscious 5 minutes ago. I am a warrior, Veltar replied. Observation is survival. Was a warrior, Marcus corrected. You said so yourself. Yes, Veltar agreed. I was many things. Now I am only what I choose to be. They worked in comfortable silence after that, Marcus patching up the worst of the injuries, while Veltar endured the pain with stoic grace. When it was done, Marcus helped the alien to his feet, supporting his considerable weight as they made their way to the workshop. The interior of Marcus's home was Spartanly functional. A bed, a small kitchen, a workbench that doubled as a dining table, and shelves lined with books and spare parts. It wasn't much, but it was clean and organized, the refuge of someone who had learned to find comfort in simplicity. Sit, Marcus said, gesturing to the single chair. I'll make us some food. I cannot take your food, Veltar said, but his stomach chose that moment to rumble loudly, betraying his hunger. I have nothing to offer in return. You already offered, Marcus reminded him, opening a can of soup and setting it on the small electric burner. Besides, when's the last time you ate? Veltar considered this. 6 of your days, perhaps 7. Time becomes difficult to track when you are running for your life. Running from what? Marcus asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. From my own people, Veltar said simply. From the fleet I once commanded. From the invasion I was ordered to lead against your world. Marcus stopped stirring the soup. Invasion? The Kethran Empire has been watching Earth for several of your years, Veltar explained. Your people are seen as primitives, barely worthy of conquest. The plan was simple. Establish a beachhead, eliminate resistance, claim the planet's resources. I was to lead the first wave. Was, Marcus noted. Past tense again. I disagreed with the assessment of your species, Veltar said carefully. I believed there was more to humans than the Empire recognized. I requested permission to make contact, to attempt negotiation rather than conquest. And I was. Branded a coward and a traitor, Veltar said, his voice carrying the weight of old pain. I was stripped of my rank, my honors, my family name. But I was given one final chance to redeem myself, lead the invasion or face execution. Marcus ladled soup into 2 bowls, handing one to Veltar. So you ran instead. I stole a scout ship and fled to Earth, Veltar confirmed. I thought perhaps I could find evidence of your species' true nature, something to convince the Empire that conquest was unnecessary. And instead you crashed in a Montana wasteland, Marcus said, sitting down on his bed across from the alien. Instead I found you, Veltar said, tasting the soup cautiously. His eyes widened slightly, and he took another spoonful. This is surprisingly good. Don't sound so shocked, Marcus said with a grin. I've had 23 years to perfect my recipe. They ate in comfortable silence, the warmth of the food and the shelter working to ease the tension in both of them. Marcus found himself studying his unlikely guest, noting the way Veltar held himself despite his injuries, the careful dignity with which he ate, the way his golden eyes never stopped moving, cataloging every detail of his surroundings. You're still a warrior, Marcus observed. Exile or not, you're still scanning for threats, still planning escape routes. Old habits, Veltar admitted, though I am beginning to think I may not need them here. Why's that? Because, Veltar said, meeting Marcus's eyes, in all my years of conquest and command, I have never met anyone who would share their last meal with a stranger. Your Empire's assessment of humanity is ... incomplete. Marcus laughed again, and this time it came easier. Well, don't judge us all by me. I'm definitely not typical. Perhaps not, Veltar agreed. But if even one human can show such kindness to an enemy, then perhaps there is hope for both our species. Outside, the wind continued to howl, but inside the small workshop, 2 unlikely companions sat in the warm glow of human hospitality, each carrying burdens that seemed a little lighter when shared ... the price of honor. 3 days had passed since Veltar's arrival, and Marcus was beginning to understand what the alien had meant by carrying burdens. The Kethran worked with a quiet efficiency that spoke of military discipline, but more than that, he seemed to anticipate Marcus's needs before Marcus himself recognized them. When Marcus's back seized up from years of hunching over engines, Veltar was there with heated cloths and a massage, technique that worked knots out of muscles Marcus hadn't even known were tight. When the old generator began acting up, threatening to leave them without power, Veltar's 4 arms made quick work of repairs it would have taken Marcus hours to complete alone. But it was the smaller things that truly surprised him. Hot coffee, waiting when he woke up, tools cleaned and organized before he could ask, the simple presence of another being in the workshop, making the silence less oppressive and the walls less confining. You don't have to do all this, Marcus said on the 3rd evening, watching Veltar prepare their dinner with the same methodical precision he brought to everything else. I gave my word, Veltar replied simply. Among my people, an oath is binding until death. I will carry your burdens, Marcus Chun. All of them. Even the ones I don't talk about? Veltar paused in his cooking, golden eyes meeting Marcus's, especially those. Marcus felt something shift in his chest, a loosening of knots he'd carried. For so long, he'd forgotten they were there. My wife died in the collapse, he said quietly. Sarah, she was. She was everything good about this world. Kind, smart, funny. She believed in people even when they didn't deserve it. Tell me about her, Veltar said, setting down his utensils and giving Marcus his full attention. So Marcus did. He told Veltar about Sarah's laugh, about her terrible cooking and her brilliant mind, about the way she'd made him feel like he was worthy of love, despite all evidence to the contrary. He told him about the night she died, about the fever that took her because there were no medicines left, no doctors, no hope. I should have saved her, Marcus finished, his voice barely above a whisper. I could fix any machine, solve any mechanical problem, but I couldn't fix the one thing that mattered most. You carry guilt that is not yours to bear, Veltar said. Gently. Disease is not a machine to be repaired. Death is not a problem to be solved. Sometimes the burden is simply learning to live with the weight of love that has nowhere to go. Is that what you're doing? Marcus asked. Learning to live with the weight of love for a people who cast you out? Perhaps, Veltar admitted. Or perhaps I am learning that love for one's people and love for what is right are not always the same thing. Before Marcus could respond, the workshop's proximity alarms began to shriek. The sound was harsh, urgent, designed to wake the dead and alert the living to immediate danger. Marcus was on his feet instantly, muscle memory taking over as he grabbed his rifle and moved to the window. 3 ships descended from the night sky, their hulls gleaming with the same otherworldly metal as Veltar's crashed scout. They were larger, more heavily armed, and they moved with the coordinated precision of a military formation. They landed in a triangle formation around the workshop, effectively cutting off all escape routes. Catherine, Veltar said, his voice carrying a weight of inevitability. They have found me. Friends of yours? Marcus asked, though he already knew the answer. Former subordinates, Veltar replied, moving to stand beside Marcus at the window. Commander Zeekter, Sub-Commander Helten, and Battle Leader Morgith. They are here to bring me back for execution. Or? There is no or, Veltar said simply. They will complete the mission I abandoned, or they will die trying. There is no middle ground in Kethron military doctrine. The ship's hatches opened with mechanical precision, and figures began to emerge. They were similar to Veltar in basic body structure, but where he carried himself with quiet dignity, these beings moved with the predatory grace of professional killers. They wore armor that seemed to absorb light, and their weapons hummed with barely contained energy. Viltar of the Broken Oath, one of them called out, his voice amplified by some kind of translation device. You will come with us. Your execution has been postponed pending completion of your original mission. My original mission was conquest, Veltar called back, stepping into the doorway of the workshop. One choose a different path. Then you choose. Death, the commander replied. And death for the primitive who harbors you. Marcus felt a familiar surge of anger, the same rage that had sustained him through the worst days of the collapse. Primitive? He muttered. We'll see about that. He began moving through the workshop, gathering materials with the same efficiency Veltar had shown during their repairs. Welding torch, metal pipes, electrical components, and a few special surprises he'd built during the early days when raiders were more common. What are you doing? Veltar asked, watching Marcus work. Carrying my share of the burden, Marcus replied, connecting wires with practiced ease. You said you'd be my shield when danger comes. Well, danger's here. But I'm not going to hide. Behind you, You cannot fight them, Veltar said urgently. They are trained warriors with advanced weapons. You are one human with primitive tools. Primitive tools, Marcus repeated, a grin spreading across his face. Yeah, let's go with that. The Kethron warriors advanced in formation, their weapons trained on the workshop. They moved with the confidence of beings who had conquered dozens of worlds, who had never encountered meaningful resistance from the species they designated as inferior. They were about to learn why underestimating humans was a mistake. Marcus's first trap triggered when the lead warrior stepped on a seemingly innocent patch of ground. The improvised explosive device wasn't designed to kill, but to disorient and separate. The blast sent the commander flying, his armor cracked and his formation broken. Asterisk. The second trap was more subtle. As the remaining warriors moved to assist their leader, they triggered a series of buried charges that sent jets of superheated steam shooting from the ground. The steam itself wasn't dangerous, but it created a cloud of cover that obscured their vision and disrupted their coordination. Now, Marcus said, grabbing Veltar's good arm and pulling him toward the back of the workshop. They moved through the maze of machinery and equipment, using Marcus's intimate knowledge of every bolt and cable to stay ahead of their pursuers. The Kethron warriors had superior technology, but they were fighting on Marcus's territory now, and he'd spent 23 years learning every advantage the wasteland could offer. The thermal exhaust, Marcus said, pointing to a large pipe. That led from the workshop's heating system to the outside. It'll take us to the maintenance tunnels under the old factory complex. I am too large, Veltar protested. I will not fit. You'll fit, Marcus said grimly. Trust me. They crawled through the pipe, Veltar's bulk making the journey difficult but not impossible. Behind them, they could hear the Kethron warriors tearing through the workshop, their weapons reducing Marcus's life's work to molten slag. The maintenance tunnels were a relic of the old world, built when the factory complex had been a symbol of American industrial might. Now they were Marcus's secret highway, a network of passages that connected every building in the area. He'd spent years mapping them, stocking them with supplies, turning them into a fortress that existed entirely underground. This is your plan? Veltar asked as they reached a junction where several tunnels met. Hide in the darkness like prey? This is my plan, Marcus replied, opening a concealed weapons cache. Fight smart instead of hard. The cache contained items that would have been considered contraband in the old world. Military-grade explosives, armor-piercing rounds, and a few items that Marcus had built himself during the long, lonely years. He handed Veltar a weapon designed for his unique physiology, 4 barrels that could be fired independently or in sequence. I cannot, Veltar said, staring at the weapon. I have sworn an oath of non-violence toward humans. These aren't humans, Marcus pointed out. These are the same people who branded you a traitor for showing mercy. The same people who want to conquer my world and enslave my species. Veltar's golden eyes flickered with internal struggle. If I take up arms against my own people, there will be no going back. I will be truly alone. You're not alone, Marcus said simply. You've got me. Above them, the sound of searching grew louder. The Kethron warriors had found the entrance to the tunnel system and were beginning their descent. They moved with military precision, but also with the arrogance of beings who had never faced serious resistance. Choose, Marcus said quietly. Your old life or your new one. Your people's honor or your own. Veltar took the weapon, his 4 hands handling it with the ease of someone who had been born to war. I choose the future over the past, he said. I choose the difficult path over the easy one. I choose friendship over duty. The battle in the tunnels was unlike anything Marcus had ever experienced. The Kethron warriors fought with the disciplined, efficiency of a military unit, but they were fighting on terrain they didn't understand against, enemies who had nothing left to lose. Marcus used every trick he'd learned in 23 years of surviving in the wasteland. Improvised explosives, concealed traps, and an intimate knowledge of every pipe and cable in the complex. He fought not like a soldier, but like a mechanic, using tools and ingenuity to overcome superior force. Veltar fought like a being reborn, his military training enhanced by a new purpose. He moved through the tunnels with fluid grace, his 4 arms allowing him to fire in multiple directions simultaneously. But more than that, he fought with the desperate intensity of someone defending, not just his life, but his newfound hope. The final confrontation took place in the main junction, where all the tunnels converged. The surviving Kethron warriors had Marcus and Veltar cornered, their advanced weapons trained on the unlikely pair. "Surrender now," Commander Ziekter demanded, his armor cracked and his weapon arm hanging useless at his side. "You have fought. Well for primitives, but this ends now." "You're right," Marcus said, his hands raised in apparent surrender. "This does end now." The explosion that followed was carefully calculated, designed not to kill, but to collapse the tunnel system in a specific pattern. Marcus had spent hours planning it, placing charges that would create a controlled cave-in that would trap the Kethron warriors without killing them. As the dust settled, Marcus and Veltar stood in the only clear space remaining, surrounded by tons of rubble that effectively sealed the tunnels. The Kethron warriors were alive but trapped, their weapons useless against the weight of earth and stone. "You could have killed them," Veltar observed. "Yeah," Marcus agreed, "but you were right about one thing. There's more to humans than your empire recognizes. We don't always choose the easy path." They emerged from the tunnels as the sun rose over the wasteland, painting the sky in shades of hope and possibility. The Kethron ships sat empty and abandoned, their crews trapped underground. Marcus looked at the alien technology and grinned. "Think you can teach me to fly one of those things?" he asked. "Why?" Veltar asked, though his golden eyes were beginning to gleam with understanding. "Because," Marcus said, shouldering his rifle, and walking toward the nearest ship, "I figure it's time someone carried the burden of truth back to your empire. Time they learned what humans are really capable of when we choose to stand together instead of apart." Veltar followed, his 4 arms working to open the ship's hatch. "This path leads to war," he warned. "My people will not accept defeat easily." "Then we'll teach them the same lesson you learned," Marcus replied, settling into the pilot's seat. "That sometimes the strongest thing you can do is choose peace over conquest, friendship over duty, and hope over fear." As the ship lifted off, carrying them toward the stars and an uncertain future, Marcus felt the weight of old burdens finally lifting from his shoulders. For the first time in 23 years, he wasn't alone. And for the first time in his life, Veltar wasn't just following orders. They were choosing their own path. Together, the wasteland fell away beneath them, but the bond they'd forged would endure far beyond the reaches of any single world. In the end, that was what made humans truly dangerous to those who sought to conquer them. Not their technology or their weapons, but their capacity to find family in the most unlikely places and to fight for that family with everything they had. The burden of loneliness was finally shared, and in sharing it, both had found something worth fighting for. Asterisk,